Morning.
Good morning.
I'll take the roll call. Member Jonathan Golden.
Present.
Member Arlene Shaw.
Present.
Member Shaw will act as acting chair for the meeting today.
So exciting. I'm the grown-up in the
Wow.
room.
Member Adam Freed.
Present.
Member GK Sue.
Present.
We have a quorum. Ms. Chair.
Oh, perfect. Our first and only formal item is the approval of last meeting from October 12th. Do we have any comments or modifications? Hearing none, may I move for approval of the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go. It's approved.
Thank you.
The minutes are approved. Our next item is a presentation by one of the board's contractors, American Water Resources. We have with us today 3 executives from American Water: Eric Palm, Colleen Gritty, and Elsa Schulman. Got them right? All right. For those of you who don't know, American Water is the provider of water and sewer service line protection plans. These are strictly voluntary plans that DEP customers can enroll in for a monthly fee. If there's any problem with the section of the water or the sewer line that the customers own, American Water will dispatch a licensed plumber to repair or replace the line. American Water began offering the program to DEP customers in 2013, and the board recently exercised its renewal option to continue operating the program to existing customers as well as any new customers that enroll. As of October 31, more than 273,000 DEP customers have water or sewer line protection policies in effect. The board is hearing American Water's proposed increase to the prices of the water and sewer line plans. We are not voting on these today. We're just hearing the proposal, which we will consider over the coming weeks, including holding public hearings. With that, Eric and team, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Would you like us at the table or back
Join
here?
us at the table.
Just got to make sure you're in the camera. So maybe you want to stand, Eric, and go by the.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So, good morning, and thank you everyone for coming in on an early Cyber Monday morning here. And I appreciate the opportunity, along with my colleagues, to provide an update on the service line protection program that Arlene, you referenced earlier. So thank you for the introduction. Just by way of introducing our company very briefly here, we are the 10% here, and I'll talk very briefly about the 90%. So we are the largest investor-owned water and wastewater utility in the U.S. And as you see, we have regulated operations in 15 states and date back to 1886 in terms of the formation of the organization. So about 14 million homeowners over 15 states, and 7,000 people working with the organization. So about 20 years ago, we started, American Water started the American Water Resources subsidiary, and that's who I'm representing today. And that was with the idea that homeowners have some degree of exposure, of cost exposure, for the portion of the water and wastewater service lines going from the main, obviously, to their foundation. And so they developed a very low cost and affordable service contract that is in place today. We started New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and then have expanded to some 43 states, as you see here. Today we have about 1.6 million homes under contract and about 3 million protection plans. So about a 2-to-1 ratio here. Typically customers have both the water and the wastewater piece here. So next slide, please. Arlene, you hit on a number of these points here, so I'll go very quickly. 2013, we started a very successful startup with homeowners in New York City. We passed very quickly 100,000 homeowners. In July of 2014, we took our one and only price increase of 50-cent per product price increase, so nearly 5 years ago in July of 2014. The program has continued to be successful in terms of penetration and response by New York City homeowners. So 200,000 in 2016. And as Arlene mentioned, we just completed this year both a renewal of the original agreement for a 5-year extension, and we're here today to talk about a proposed price increase on the two products. 270,000 customers today, and perhaps the statistic that I think that we're most proud of, and I think as a group in here today we should be most proud of, is 98% retention of homeowners who choose to enroll in this product continue to be on it, and of that 2% that disenroll or cancel, 2/3 of those are caused by people who move out of the area or move and we lose track of them. So a very high retention, a very high customer acceptance of this product here. So in the previous contract in fiscal year 2017, we agreed with DEP to forego a price increase. You'll see that later in the presentation today. So that was essentially another 50 cents per product, just to have a sort of an ongoing, to acknowledge the ongoing expenses increasing over time here. So we deferred that in 2017. And then we're going to talk today about a couple of incremental cost drivers that we believe are driving incremental cost in the program, and we want to try and get out ahead of for this next 5 years here. So you'll see at the bottom there a summary of what our final slide will be, which is we're requesting a 50-cent price increase that was foregone in 2017, and in addition to that, a 58-cent price increase to talk about these two primary incremental drivers here. So I'll give a little bit of context on that. Before I go there, this slide just simply spells out some benchmarking that we did, and really looks to kind of set the primary value considerations for New York City homeowners are both under the coverage limit and the occurrence limit here. You'll see that on both those cases that's unlimited, where in all of our other markets we cap the amount of coverage per occurrence here. And that's a very important distinction for in New York City here, with the complexity and the cost and the potential severity. We cover all of that exposure, and we certainly do see claims that we cover that go $30,000, $40,000, even $50,000 per occurrence here, and that's one of the values certainly that working with the DEP we've understood that's a terrific value for New York City homeowners, and as well. Whether it happens, whether we go out once or twice or 3 times, there's no sort of, expiration on the number of times here. So you can see just a little bit of benchmarking both for our business and then a couple of our other competitors out there. I talked about our customer retention number for DEP. That 98% is something we have not seen in any of our other partnerships. And our partnerships, we classify those in American Water both internally, so for New Jersey American Water or Pennsylvania American Water or other partnerships like this, that 98% retention is one we haven't seen before. We obviously measure customer satisfaction. We measure that primarily at the time of a claim occurrence. We're beginning, as you would expect, to have a more pronounced view over the life cycle of the customer. So from enrollment through annual renewal to not just the claim survey. So we're in the process of sort of rolling that out. But in the end here, customer satisfaction is critically important to us. And what we want to do ultimately is to show value for homeowners to the extent that they want to renew, that they see value in renewing that service. So that's our primary gauge ultimately, is that retention statistic. But we do measure customer satisfaction in a number of different ways. Okay, I spoke to a couple of incremental cost drivers here, and I'd like to just highlight the 2 primary ones here that we've spent some time developing. So at the infancy of this program in 2013, we entered with a certain set of assumptions on the number of lead service lines that were out in New York City, and no, we don't know that for sure. No municipality really has a 100% understanding of, because the years that lead service lines were used. But what's paramount here is that percentage is several-fold higher than we believed at the outset of this program in terms of developing a cost base. And what that means is that instead of just repairing a water service line, when we detect lead, there's just no question. We replace the entire lead service line then. We pull that out. So it's a full line replacement versus what would be just typically a spot repair on many of these water service lines. So that incremental cost is one driver here, and you see a number associated with that. The other one, the DOT road restoration, began in 2016. It was probably started to be strongly enforced in 2017. And essentially what this does is it forces the contractor to make a second trip out to the job site so they can do a temporary repair of the hole that was dug in the pavement. But they also ultimately have to come back then and do a second, more permanent repair to meet the DOT road restoration considerations here. So that incremental cost from the contractor is certainly something we've had to acknowledge in our claims costs.
Could you kind of talk me through that again? Previously you would just do a temporary kind of pothole fix or cap and fill it with asphalt. Now it's a higher degree of quality that's required, or?
Yeah, maybe Ms. Garrity, if that.
Yeah. Excuse me. So now the restoration, we have to dig a slightly larger hole, and we have to do a concrete level that we never had to do before.
You just do asphalt before, or?
Yeah, it was an asphalt patch.
Like a cold patch, instead, that they would just carry some cold patch on there.
Yeah.
So it's two things. They have to come out, and then there's an inspection between the two as well that they have to, ultimately they have to let that, there's a period of time that they have to let that before they can come out and do that second level permanent patch there.
And do you have figures on the, what, you mentioned that it's now as you're finding and going up for repairs on the lines, as soon as you see that there's lead or the testing, you replace it. How far of that line do you replace? Is just the section that you were looking to repair? Does it go up beyond? And do you have figures on how many feet or miles of lines have been replaced over this period?
Yeah, we can give, so our percentage of lines that we replace is, Alicia, is what?
Over 80% are due to material, which is lead.
Of our water line service calls or claims that are put in, over 80% of those turn out to be a full line replacement. And then to the second part of your question.
So of all the calls when someone says there's a leak or an issue, over 80% of those you end up replacing the line?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then to the extent of the replacement, it is the full line replacement. Not if there's any, if we detect lead, it's just automatically
So
full line
from the
replacement.
house to the,
Yeah.
wow.
To the main.
Wow.
Okay. So this again, final slide, mercifully on a Monday morning here. This is our the request for the proposed price increase that we're seeking. And again, as we divide this out, 50 cents of this we see as sort of incremental, or I'm sorry, just routine price increases over the course of time. So that dates back, this dates back to 2014, since our last price increase. And then, again, per the agreement that we have with DEP, if there are incremental expense items that we had not anticipated as we can't come in here. I would say just one thing as we sort of close my side of the presentation and take any questions here. So we want to do this, we're proposing to do this once now at the beginning of this 5-year renewal, and then that's it. We see this is a very successful program for us. We don't anticipate coming back in here for the remainder of that. We understand that there is some customer reaction to a price increase, and we want to just do that once, be done with it. And so we feel like this price increase, $1.08 on a product or $2.16 on the combined two products, as nearly all homeowners have the two products, is a one-time and will carry us through for the remainder of the 5-year term. So through 2023.
And I apologize, I was just looking through the fact pack that we were provided, which gave a little more background.
Right.
It seems to suggest that about half of the service calls will result in line replacements or repairs. Is that but the sewer line would not be a result of lead, that's a separate line.
Right.
So it says that water line repair or replacement is 52% of the calls over the past the lifetime of the program.
Those are percents of completed jobs.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I'm not quite sure. We'd have to
We'll
recognize.
triangulate.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to get a little bit, I know
reconcile, yeah.
it's a really, lead obviously is an issue that comes up with us quite a bit
Okay.
in rate hearings and just in our programmatic efforts. I'd love to have given that it's one of the cost drivers that's not a regulatory requirement. Well, the DOT is a regulatory requirement that you're having to meet new requirements. I'd love to better understand kind of the frequency of the lead finding and how many,
So what we'll do, Adam, is we'll sit with Eric and his crew,
That'd
and
be
we'll go
great.
through and get those details, and we'll have those. Because as, you know, Arlene said at the outset, you know, you keep asking questions. I think, Jonathan, you may have a few. Because we're going to accumulate all these questions that we have today, and then we'll come back and we have the, you know, the proposed meeting where the board will consider for
Perfect.
adoption. We'll go through the presentation again, as well as whatever questions we got from the public hearing, other things that the board members either now or, you know, if you have questions as you think over the coming weeks, you could send those to us, you know, either call or send them over. And we're going to accumulate those, and we'll incorporate those into a follow-up presentation so that it can be, you know, comprehensive, both for the members as well as the outward facing for the public as we do the public hearing as well.
Very fair question.
thank you very much.
We can reconcile that.
But I do want to, yeah, I think that's a very important point too, what Eric made the last one. If you could flip back a few slides, Omar, that this is going to be a one-time rate increase that's going to be in effect for the upcoming 5 years. So it's, you know, I think that's a really good position for our customers to be in and stuff, you know, in terms of knowing that they've got price certainty in terms of what they're, you know, they're paying. And I think as the comparison was, this is comparable to what other vendors are providing in terms of the price point for, you know, such services.
And we've, inside of our own footprint, inside of our own, for our regulated customers, we've done similar price increases and been the fall off in customer count is very negligible, so I believe that to be the case here.
Just a quick question. It seems to me like we have somewhat of a partial financial picture insofar as you've indicated to us where there have been excess costs that weren't anticipated perhaps. But we don't have a sense overall as to what that is translated into in terms of the program as a whole. Have you been seeing decreasing profitability in the program as a result of those cost drivers?
Well, so I'll answer the second part of it first, and maybe come back to the first part of your question. So this program I believe the reason that 98% of homeowners continue to stay enrolled in this is there's a lot of complexity in performing these repairs in New York City, as we all know. And as a result of that, there's a lot of costs that we incur as a business to make sure that we have the systems and the infrastructure set up adequately to respond to these. So yes, we have this program compared to other programs that we have in our sort of our partners, both internal and external. There's more claims against this program than any other one.
Well, in absolute numbers, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Just relatively, I'm trying to understand, because I would imagine that there are economies of scale in an operation like this, and since we've seen such accelerated growth, and as you said, unanticipated growth, I'd just like to have a sense as to how those particular slivers of increased cost fit into the overall economic picture, because I just feel like we have part of the story but not the whole story.
No, very fair. We have in previous versions provided additional detail to Omar and team. I don't know how, we're not real anxious to put that into into a public sort of document, but I don't know.
Well, I think there again, it's a fair question. I think we will go back and we'll consider this work with Eric and his crew. I think what we've got to be mindful is we're balancing our responsibility here as the pass-through entity, for lack of a better word, of providing this service, which we as DEP have no ownership other than getting a slight service fee from there, and where we've seen this as being very successful for our customers versus your responsibility as the board too, because this is a regulated by the mandate that this increase must be approved by the board, and your responsibility to make sure whatever is being put forth is going to meet your satisfaction of what we're providing to our customers. So I think we want to balance both, AWR's responsibility to private public company providing a private service versus our responsibility to the ratepayers and making sure that this is a fair and equitable increase compared to, what the cost factors are driving. So we'll try to thread that needle and be able to come forward with something that we could present at the next meeting so that you can consider that and be able to go forward.
And thank you very much, Joe. Just so you have a sense as to what I'm trying to get at, I think because this is a renewal of a monopolistic relationship, it's difficult for us to get a sense as to whether customers are getting a good value. It sounds like the program is very successful in many respects, and I commend you for that. But we're being given an increase amount with only a couple of bits of context as to where costs have increased without the whole sense as to how profitable this is. And if it were to turn out, for example, that it were already extremely profitable, then query whether we should be imposing it on the ratepayers and whether other potential vendors would be happy to step in and do it at current costs. And that's something that we can't evaluate without financial information.
Okay, so we'll give consideration. We'll bring something forward.
Thank you.
I two questions. One, a point of clarification, as you talk about the % increase in expenses for the lead line replacement and the road restoration, is that increase on the cost center for those issues or an overall increase? So you say a 21% increase in expense due to the removal of the old service lines. Is that overall the program? Or?
Yeah.
So when the assumptions were for a lower percentage of lines being lead, and then that increased significantly, our expenses went up.
For the whole program. So that's
Yes.
21%, so that's about a 54% increase.
So we would have repaired those lines, but because of the material, we have to replace them, which is a significantly higher cost.
Okay, so but that's you're saying a 54% increase of expenses overall than you would expect it for the whole program.
Right.
Okay.
So that's not, sorry, just to be clear, because I read that differently too. I read that differently, I should say. That's not to say that the line replacement expense, for example, was 21% higher. Your point is that the overall expense of the program is up 54%?
I would say yes, but I think we can come back with more information.
That'd be a great.
Because it's a very important distinction.
That.
Thank you.
And then the other, I love the concept of this program for multiple reasons. I was just wondering also for helpful context and as we go into the public hearing, any figures on the savings for customers, because you're fixing leaks that otherwise would be leaking water and their water bills would be up. I love the AMR and the work that we've done there to help reduce customer bills and save the money. So to the extent that you guys have any figures or would be able to easily, and I know easily is a relative word and sometimes the data we want to have isn't available, but just to give us some context on the value for customers for the savings, either because you're saving them water or because if they had to pay for their average repair it would be much more, and the amount of water we're saving. Because again, you're providing a benefit by catching things and giving them a way of getting through quickly in the repairs would be really helpful for us to put the broader context of the program. Right.
No, understand. Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point on the lost water issue that we can try to calculate a number as well. Okay. So just in closing, thank you for the questions, great questions, and thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve both the DEP and the Water Board, and obviously continue with the homeowners of New York City. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
So, Madam Chair, as we had said, we'll summarize the questions that the board members raised today. We'll also take the questions from the public hearing, which is yet to be noticed and scheduled. What we're looking probably for late December, maybe early January for that. Those will then accumulate, and we'll plan to have the meeting sufficiently post that hearing to get those results to the board members, as well as get your additional questions, so that we can have a package together and a presentation that will hopefully address all these questions. But then, as I said, give due consideration for the board to consider. As you pointed out, Jonathan, this is, a fiduciary responsibility that we're putting on our ratepayers, which is, kind of a little mixed, because it's not a city program, but it's a private program. But it is a real value, and we do want to make sure that people are not overpaying as well. So we'll take due consideration of that as well. So I turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Okay. That concludes our agenda for the meeting. Do any of the members have anything else? Okay, hearing nothing, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All right,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're concluded.